This episode is presented by State Farm. Life's full of decisions, big and small, and sometimes you make movie ones you can really stand behind. For example, I was wise enough to stick around through the mid-credits during Ryan Coogler's Sinners, and unlike my co-host Amanda, I got to see a very special sequence with the great Buddy Guy, among other things. State Farm gets it. Making confident choices can make all the difference. That's why with the State Farm Personal Price Plan, you can choose the right amount of coverage to help create an affordable price for you. Talk to a State Farm agent today to learn how you can choose to bundle and save with the Personal Price Plan. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state. I'm Sean Fennessey.
I'm Amanda Dobbins.
And this is 25 for 25, a big picture special conversation show about The Wolf of Wall Street. Let me tell you something. There's no nobility in poverty. I've been a rich man and I have been a poor man, and I choose rich every fucking time. Okay.
Yeah.
The Martin Scorsese episode of 25 for 25 is upon us.
Here we are.
And
only at number 11.
We have once again made a huge mistake.
This is just getting really stressful.
So just to foreground this conversation, I rewatched this movie last night, and about 48 minutes into it, I texted you, is this the greatest movie ever made?
Yeah.
And it's at number 11 on our list. So we continue to make mistakes throughout this experience. This is the 23rd feature film
I did try to
Martin.
flip it at some point. I just want to say that I did try to flip it, and you were like, no, I want to keep, you said I want to keep number 10 where it is.
Okay. I don't even remember what number 10 is right now.
Well, it's, and I'm really looking forward to that one.
Oh, yeah.
And also, I was watching this movie and thinking about number 10, and I was like, these actually have a lot in common in their own way.
Interesting.
So,
no spoilers.
So I feel good about it.
Okay.
But yeah, we have Martin Scorsese's late career masterpiece at number 11 on this list. We're stupid.
We are stupid. I would like to foreground this conversation by saying that I have recently completed the 5-hour Mr. Scorsese documentary that's coming to Apple in October. Directed by Rebecca Miller, that is an extraordinary all-access look at his entire career and his life, and features tons of collaborators, family members. There are so many things in this documentary that I have never heard about or seen revealed or seen shown with such intimacy. That's going to color this conversation and maybe some of my regret around its placement at number 11.
Okay.
Because this movie is simultaneously like the apotheosis of a style and also a big outlier, I would say, in terms of his movies because of its hyperkinetic nature. It's like the final boss of a thing he developed in the 21st century as a director. So obviously it is written by Terrence Winter, is based on Jordan Belfort, the famed, infamous trader, stockbroker. His memoir stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Jonah Hill, Margot Robbie, Matthew McConaughey, Kyle Chandler, Rob Reiner, John Bernthal, Jon Favreau, many others. Shot by the great Rodrigo Prieto. Give me some first reflections upon revisiting the movie.
I think this was our unanimous, not even a minute of conversation, Scorsese pick for this century, Obviously, so everything, and I can read what was eligible, which was...
some great films.
Yeah, sure. Well, Gangs of New York was not eligible. Well, I mean, it was eligible, but was never in consideration.
Not considered, yeah.
The Aviator, not in consideration. The Departed, okay. Shutter Island, okay. Hugo, which you love. The Wolf of Wall Street. Silence, which you made a very half-hearted push for, knowing
there is a real heads case for Silence.
There's a real
as another culmination of what he is interested in.
Sure, and I understand that, and I respect it, and that is a real heads that are all male heads just sitting in a room.
No, they're men and women who have had faith, and have struggled with feelings about it.
Right. I still see that as the movie that broke up Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone, which I do feel, everyone's happy now. Everyone's doing what they need to do. But in that moment, it was just Andrew Garfield was like, I just went method as a monk for 3 years or whatever. And that had repercussions. So that's where that is.
There's no great art without great sacrifice.
That is what that movie is about over and over again. The Irishman, which I think is the most underrated film on this list.
Okay.
And Killers of the Flower Moon, which is also a masterpiece. So
I think his last 4 films in particular are all incredible. Now he is in a very unique era of his career where a lot of his rise and fall is defined by that parabolic shape. Mm-hmm. You know, in the 70s, he's this kind of exciting new voice. In the 80s, things really dip, and then he bounces back, and then he goes back down again. He never totally gets told he's the best. Post-Departed Best Picture win, it's become easier for him to get big movies made. And he made this decision to make big movies on a grand scale, like a lot of filmmakers from the 40s and 50s that he loves. So, you know, I would say Shutter Island, Hugo, The Wolf of Wall Street, Silence, The Irishman, and Killers of the Flower Moon, all of which are these kind of durational films.
Yeah.
They're all about obsessions of his, whether it be filmmaking or faith or the rot at the heart of the American soul.
Yeah.
All, you know, masculinity, anger, sex, all this stuff that he's always interested in. They're
drugs.
All abusing oneself,
yes,
you know, like punishing
addiction,
yourself, addiction, totally. They're all... Each one is about an individual thing, but they're also all about all of those things in interesting ways. So The Wolf of Wall Street, choosing it is funny because I think it is the most by far conventionally entertaining of the movies from this period.
Yes. Though, and we're already getting to does it valorize the behavior depicted versus does it...
We should talk about it.
But there is a lot. There are just a tremendous amount of naked women in this film I had forgotten, you know? Yeah. And it really, it's at volume, you know? There is just what else can we put in here? And there is, you know, a grand, epic scale to the excess. That is the point. But is, you know, there were certain audiences who are just oh, wow, look at that. More tits, you know? That seems great.
Yeah. It's 180-minute runtime. Yeah. It never takes its foot off the gas in terms of the bacchanal that it's portraying, that Belfort's life was this nonstop 24/7 exploration of how hard he could push himself into exploiting his body and his desires.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what money drives him to do. And that's what money drives all people to do in this particular culture that we live in. So you could make the case that it is too much or that it was very popular because people didn't read the center of the message. I mean, I would say that's not the filmmaker's fault. If people only like this movie because it has a lot of tits in it. We live in 2025. If you want to see tits online, you don't have to go watch a 3-hour Martin Scorsese movie. It's pretty easy to get that done.
It is also, the excess is the point and is grotesque throughout the movie. And also there is, I mean, these people are just true assholes, just real assholes. And so you watch their depravity and it shifts over the course of the 3 hours. And at first you're I can't believe they're saying these things. And it's sort of funny. And by the end, you are truly grossed out with them unless you are a person with no, you know, internal compass whatsoever and just enjoying it, which is your own problem.
There are a few moments in this movie, though, that are very purposeful and very targeted, where Belfort, who toggles between this sort of into camera delivery, where he's explaining how he feels about things, and a voiceover that feels very much like a guy guiding his own, shaping his own mythology.
Yeah.
But he kind of breaks character a couple of times. There's one in particular where he talks about one of the stockbrokers that works at his firm, who marries one of the secretaries who blew him in an elevator.
Right.
And then they very quickly hop through their lives where they end up getting married. But then she had turned out had slept with many of the men that they all worked with. And then that guy committed suicide 2 years later.
Yeah.
And we see this one shot of his arm hanging over a bathtub and he's killed himself. There's one much later in the movie where we learn very quickly that Brad, John Bernthal's character, who's a drug dealer, died of a heart attack at the age of 35. Yeah. And then he compares him to Mozart. And he says, I don't know why that popped into my head. And there's just these very quick revelations of there's huge toll on doing this kind of thing. And it's not as simple as at the end you go to white collar penitentiaries.
Right.
And then 2 years later you're free and it's fine. It's just that all of those things, we brush them under the rug the same way that we do in society. When something really bad happens, you know, we make a big deal of it and then we go on to the next controversy or the next thing that to distract us. The script is really, really smart about that stuff, but I think it's really unusual for the biggest movie star in the world to make a movie with this much excess, with this much Like, think of the first few things you see Leonardo DiCaprio's character do in this movie.
It's true.
That's a choice that he and Scorsese made, and the movie was financed independently without a studio. Because I don't think a studio would have allowed for Leo to blow cocaine out of a prostitute's ass in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
It's true.
That's a bracing image from the heartthrob of his generation.
See it right now, yeah.
Yeah, that big heart-shaped ass and the way that Scorsese frames it. Yeah. I mean, in a way, but it's also like, here's what kind of movie you're watching. Mm-hmm. And so the idea that it was DiCaprio who went out and raised the funds to get this movie made from some uncertain financial figures. Right. And a lot of that stuff came to light in the aftermath of this movie. But he raised $100 million, got Scorsese attached this incredible cast, and then the movie went on to be a huge hit. This is the biggest hit in Martin Scorsese's career, made $400 million worldwide. So what is the lesson from that?
Leo has good taste, for one thing. And let great filmmakers do what they want. And the lesson from this movie and also that experience is that money always does corrupt, but I guess sometimes you need it to do great things.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I like that echo in the financing of the movie, which is, I don't know if it's nefariously financed, but there is some misdeed. Yes, exactly. Around how the money was raised. And then that being a material part of the Stratton Oakmont story is so wonderful. It says everything I think you need to know about doing anything at scale in America, right? There's no way to do it cleanly. So the movie itself, it very much is a Martin Scorsese movie in that it is like hard charging, very masculine, a lot of desperation at the center of the lead character who's constantly trying to cloak it with this bravado.
Right.
The style of it jumped out to me even more so because it is like roughly 80% montage.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about
you do recognize the moments where it stops and it is just like Leo speaking into, whether literally speaking into camera, but also Leo as Jordan Belfort, like having a moment. And you're like, oh, it's this speech. The first speech that you quoted at the beginning of the episode is like everything stops. And the camera, he's in a room filled with people, but it's not cutting away to everyone else and you're on him for a long time. That is true of, he has a few speeches to the trading floor like that. There is, when you texted me, I wrote back and I was like, I just watched the yacht scene, which That's first
a big one. Yep.
But that is two people. That's Kyle Chandler and Leonardo DiCaprio. But they are memorable because there are moments when the movie and really the camera like actually stay in one place on two people as opposed to, just literally every single thing that you can think of that is a vice being crammed into one frame.
Yeah, there's a couple of critical scenes with Naomi, Margot Robbie's character. We can talk about her a little bit as well, since this is really her major breakthrough as a movie actress. One in particular where they're fighting when he's shirtless in bed and she keeps throwing the water on him.
Oh, that's an all-time one.
And then one near the end of the film, which is really, really upsetting.
Yes.
When she tells him that she's going to divorce him, and his reaction to that, which is extremely ugly, like the absolute darkest part of this film.
On purpose, like,
totally.
And the movie is building to that, like, this is unsustainable, and this is a person with real demons, and this creates ugliness.
Exactly.
You're not supposed to celebrate him.
Yes. Even still, some people didn't get that message, but the movie knows exactly what it's doing.
We're not responsible for everyone online.
I totally agree. And then I think on a grander, just to go back to the montage thing, there are more than 30 needle drops in the movie.
Yeah.
They are, I would argue, the pinnacle of him doing that. And that the movie has this very weird go-go 1950s and 60s blues soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
In part, I think there's like a very logical explanation for it, right? How you hear Howlin' Wolf's voice a bunch. This is the Wolf of Wall Street. There is a kind of like hungry, lascivious quality to some of those blues records that Scorsese and Robbie Robertson were obsessed with. And Robbie Robertson's career is like kind of sort of aping some of those records. But then there's also something very haunted about American blues. Mm-hmm. And in particular, a a series of scenes in this movie that I talked about this at length on the rewatchables, but it is something that I always think about when I watch this movie. There are moments where we get these slowed down blues songs during these incredible Bacchanalia moments where you can almost feel Jordan like descending into hell, or he's being portrayed as Satan.
Right.
And the lighting in the scene changes, the sound goes out. You only hear the music, and then the camera finds Belfort, and he's like looking at everything he has created, and he simultaneously is gleeful, but there's some weird regret or woundedness on DiCaprio's face.
It's the Paradise Lost,
Yes.
Satan. Yeah,
what have I done?
But I mean, it's a good point because like the reference is like a Renaissance or something painting of of all of the people crammed in. I'm sorry, my art history is failing me. With a specific reference, painter,
or it's like sometimes it's the Last Supper, sometimes it's Francis Bacon and like the disgusting nature of the human soul. But all of this stuff is very intentional. It just feels very contemporary and funny. Mm-hmm. The movie is very, very funny and fun to watch.
But it's funny in a really fucked up way.
Totally.
And we've been talking a lot about what perfect timing this is going into One Battle After Another. And obviously a lot of that is to do with the Leo of it all. Mm-hmm. But, like Scorsese is a huge influence on all filmmakers, including PTA. And there is a really screwed up level to the humor in this movie that is very PTA as well. Of like, I'm asking you to laugh at some very uncomfortable things, and you will, but we all kind of know hopefully we know how messed up this is.
Yeah, I think the one thing that the two of them have in common, and that it seems like Leonardo DiCaprio is interested in too, is the absurd lengths that powerful people will go to make themselves feel better.
Yeah.
And that often means mocking people or taking power from them. But then, you put this here in the document, and I think that it's true that this portrait of 80s excess and the rise of a certain kind of like...
It is a 1980s con man who conquers America by reflecting back like what America actually is to itself.
Yes.
Does it ring any bells?
And the use of lifestyles of the rich and famous and Robin Leach in this movie.
There is a scene that takes place quite literally outside Trump Tower.
Yeah. And also the even the infomercial moment near the end of the movie where sort of like Jordan Belfort is selling something not just to his investors, but to all of America about how to be better and more like him. This movie presages the locker room talk Donald Trump scandal by just a couple of years, and it's undeniable that this era, especially of New York power, this is like the real Gilded Age where there's everything looks gold, but it's copper underneath.
Right.
And that is really what Belfort represents. Also, this is such a very familiar tone of Long Island and Queens to me. And it is all of the personalities in the film. Like there's a moment where you see the cops come up to arrest Bernthal and Jonah Hill, and it's a Nassau County cop car.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I grew up seeing that cop car all the time.
And they're in like this strip mall nearby.
Yes, it all looks so familiar to me. So it is a weird reflection of my childhood in an odd way. Not that I was exposed to anything as crazy as this movie, but it does have a little bit of a personal connection for me as well. When you wrote down that note about the 80s con man, the quote from the movie that popped to me the most is, "I want you to deal with your problems by becoming rich."
Yeah.
Which is, I think, how a lot of people still feel.
Yes.
That this is a way to solve this unsolvable pain. And all the Scorsese movies are all about these unresolved pains. The desire to be more famous, the desire to be more successful, the desire to be a successful boxer, the desire to be a successful gangster, to be a comedian who gets to go on late night television, to just get through one night sleeping with the girl you want to sleep with. All these fucked up guys in all these movies who are all trying to get something that they think will help them feel better, but won't.
Right. But do you know what a thing I really like about this movie is that is absolutely what's going on, but it does not spend any time on the pain.
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't, there's no origin story. There's no trauma,
it's true.
Whatever. There's no really humanizing this person. I would say the only moments where you are necessarily drawn to Belfort because that is the type of character that he is. And the movie is exploring like what someone like this and what money and wealth and this display does to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's literally the last shot of the film. But there are also moments where just like Leo and the character like unlock a little something. There is a little bit of humanity. And you don't even know if you can really trust it, but it's the movie star thing. You're leaning in, but that is as far as it goes characterization-wise of showing that there is someone or something going on in there. There's no attempt to like explain away the misdeeds and just like the grossness of the person.
Totally. I would argue that is something that Scorsese does better than anybody.
Yeah.
And that he very rarely falls into that trap. Like if you think about Jake LaMotta or Rupert Pupkin or the Underground Man and Taxi Driver, like
they just are as they are.
They are the same as Jordan in that they are a product of their environment.
Yeah.
Like the world hits them and then they feed into it and that's it. That it is not like,
right.
Oh, you got beat up by your parents and so you're like this now. Like obviously anybody who gets beat up by their parents is in tremendous pain, but that doesn't explain the decisions that they make in their life and in the world. And I think he's very sophisticated about that. He doesn't try to engender sympathy, but that doesn't mean that these people aren't attractive in a way. Henry Hill is very attractive and exciting to watch in Goodfellas. Jordan Belfort is at times very exciting and funny in this movie. It doesn't make him any less repugnant as a human because he's a disgusting person.
Mm-hmm.
But that dancing on that line and him still being able to channel this in, I guess he's in his late 60s when he makes this movie is amazing. I mean, it's a movie that feels like it's made by a 30-year-old because of the amount of energy and pizzazz that it has, but also just a tremendous amount of human insight. So where it stands, like even in his entire career, is kind of a fascinating conversation.
I mean, you and Adam Naiman and Chris did a Scorsese episode, and it was the one movie in all 3 top 5s.
Was it? I don't remember.
Maybe I'm misremembering,
Okay.
but it was in many of them, and it was high. It would be in my top 5 as well. I think, everyone our age and younger gets it. I do think some of the older generation were a little. Some of the people who were there in the 80s with Jordan Belfort perhaps did not like the reflection back at themselves of what they were going through.
There was a lot of writing about this,
Yeah.
a lot of criticism about this when the movie was released, this sort of idea. And he's obviously had to deal with this many, many times. He dealt with this in his portrayal of Christ. He dealt with this in his portrayal of young gangsters in New York in the 1970s. Jack, I feel like this is a big Gen Z, young millennial movie. And I feel like for many people who are under 25, maybe their first Scorsese movie?
100%. Very big movie of people my age. And if you want to talk about people not understanding the core themes and message, I mean, this is a prime frat dude dorm poster movie.
Yeah.
I mean, just completely misreading it, which is unfortunate. But I mean, it's an all-time favorite
It's
of mine.
not the movie's
amazing.
fault,
Well, I do think...
we live and we learn. Hopefully we grow.
There's no way to know this, but let me just
go ahead.
speculate. Do the producers of the movie know that they're going to be able to make this a very profitable affair because of the stuff that they're putting in the movie? Even knowing in their heart of hearts that this is an artistic journey to show that there's something rotten at the center.
Do all the producers know that now that we know the list of the producers, are they all like, yeah, this is about like, how money is evil? I don't know whether they do. Maybe they're thinking a lot. They're like, sure, more drugs. Yeah, let's really get into the specifics of the pharmaceutical grade of Quaaludes. Let's explain those to the people.
That stuff is unbelievable in the movie. That whole sequence is a wild Buster Keaton-esque misremembered genius moment.
Let's talk about the Leo performance.
Let's do it. So you have written here that this is the single greatest performance in Leonardo DiCaprio's career.
It is.
I'd like to unpack that with you.
Okay.
Now, as much as this is a Martin Scorsese pick, this is a Leo pick for us. Leo in the 21st century has made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18.
This is like watching my son count right now.
One Battle After Another will be either his 19th or 20th feature film this century.
You can count to 20. Congratulations.
In fact, I counted to 20 in Spanish with my daughter last night.
Yeah.
And at her request.
Knox gets thrown off at 14. Then things get dicey.
Yeah, 14. So we're not talking about One Battle After Another yet.
Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting it's his best performance of the century, but it may come up.
Yeah.
And that may come up as a discussion point. I think I'll reflect on this career right now, because this is a really worthwhile conversation. And in that Scorsese documentary that I cited, Leo kind of arrives into the movie at Gangs of New York.
Yeah.
And Gangs of New York had been a long time passion project for Scorsese. He'd been trying to get it off the ground since the late 70s. And it took a really long time to do it.
Does that ever go well, by the way, when someone's been trying to get a project off the ground for like 30 to 40 years?
I mean, PCA's been trying to get One Battle off the ground for 10 years.
Sure. Once we get into 30.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, the world changes. Like, the world changes.
Sure. But I just let's look back. Even like our greatest filmmakers. Has anyone been like, yeah, that was it. I nailed that.
Megalopolis.
Right. That's what, exactly.
Yeah. I think you're right that once you get past a certain timeline.
Sure. Guillermo del Toro has been trying to make Frankenstein for 30 years. Well, sir.
It's a very good topic of discussion for the Frankenstein episode. The passion project.
Okay. Anyway, Gangs of New York was never going to be on our list.
It was and it's an interesting one because Leo desperately wanted to attach himself to Scorsese. He idolized Scorsese. He tells this great story. He met De Niro working on this boy's life, and he watched every De Niro movie, and he really connected with the De Niro Scorsese movies. And that was how he really got hip to Scorsese. And he made it his mission after Titanic to get Scorsese movies made. Yeah. And he has been good to his word, including his next movie apparently is going to be another Martin Scorsese movie. So they've been on this journey together for 25 years. Gangs of New York, you could argue, is one of his worst performances.
Yes.
He's a little miscast, but I would never take anything away from that movie, because if he doesn't make it, then you don't get The Departed, and you don't get Shutter Island, and you don't get all these much more interesting Leo performances. Anyhow, let's set aside Titanic and Romeo and Juliet for a second, because I don't, he's a young pup. He's wonderfully effective in those movies. Other movies in contention for the best Leo performance of the century. Okay. I will suggest Django Unchained. Okay. As Calvin Candy, one of the great villains of the last 20 years. And he just pulls no punches in that movie. Right. He is as vicious and unsparing as, I would argue, any major movie star has ever been in a Hollywood production. Okay. The things that he says and the things that he does, that was a really fucking brave move on his part. And it led to, I think, and he had previously also just played J. Edgar Hoover. Like, he clearly is not afraid of complicated, not nice people in American history. The movie that he won the Academy Award for is The Revenant. Yeah. Which is a great physical performance. Who cares? So is this. I agree. He wore a bear, whatever. He did a lot of other things. I think that was a very hard movie to make. It obviously is not the movie I would have given him the. Now, I could argue that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is his best performance. Yeah. I mean, and it has a couple virtuoso scenes. Obviously, the what is the name of the TV show? Bounty Law. Like the Bounty Law scene where he starts crying. Yeah, I get it. I think he's on the set of a different show actually when he does that. Yeah, that's when he's playing as like a day player opposite Tim Oliphant. Yeah, but him in the trailer breaking down that's going to be near the top of his reel at the end of his career. But I would say that Quaaludes will and should also be at the top. It's at the top of my reel. Okay, yeah. I had forgotten the dancing at the wedding. I love that. I almost texted you about that too. It's like, again, dancing to a 60-year-old blues song. It's so incongruous. It's not. It's not. Some people will pop out the moves all of the time, and that's not something Leo does over and over again. I was like, I didn't know you could do this. Yep. Like, where did you learn to do this? He's just so loose in the movie. The whole movie, he's not tight. I find sometimes with him. Yes. He can be a little tight as a performer, a little mannered. He's very, very loose in One Battle After Another. He's very loose in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and he's very loose in this movie. And he's good that way. Yeah. And he's in the middle of a really interesting run of films where he's constantly playing this kind of comic drama. Yeah. And I didn't include this movie when I was thinking about this because The Revenant came right after it. But this movie is in the same league with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Don't Look Up, Killers of the Flower Moon, and One Battle After Another, where he's getting a lot of laughs in the movie. You would not have said that about him around the time of like
no, he was too self-serious.
Aviator and A Body of Lies and Revolutionary Road. Like these are heavy movies.
Yes.
And he has really pivoted in this interesting way in his 40s and 50s now. He's just turned 50 last year into doing this different kind of thing. But I think you're right that this is, because the movie is so big, so long, he's at the center of every single moment. He's asked to do extraordinary physical stuff.
Right.
Laugh lines. He's got to have strong emotionality. He's in full con man mode. And also just have enough vulnerability so that we all know this guy's fucked up. Everything he's doing is wrong. But we don't want to just turn it off. Like
Henry Hill, he is also, the movie is about him, but he is our way into the movie. Like he is the narrator, but you're also watching him be at lunch with Matthew McConaughey. You're watching his transformation and watching him see this world and then lose himself to the world. So he's got to communicate like the longing and almost the connection to the audience, as well as like the total grossness. And, and he also has to be able to sell that last scene, and which, this scene is really about the shots of all the people watching him. But there is like a
sell me this pen you're referring to.
Sell me this pen. But there's like a queasiness and am I rooting for him? Like, is this a story? Is this
do we want
redemption?
Him to be redeemed?
Is this punishment? Like, what is this failure? What is this? That is, he has to be everything. He has to be the villain and the hero of the movie. So I don't know. It's pretty complete as a performance.
I agree. And you put your finger on something else that I wanted to talk about that I think is so interesting. So you mentioned that yacht scene when Kyle Chandler boards the yacht, and they're sort of having this very friendly but tense walk through of what their relationship is going to be and whether or not he's going to be pursued by the FBI. And he's trying to make some moves, feel out whether or not he's going to be able to bribe these guys. And by the end of the scene, I was rooting for Leo.
Yeah.
Because the government is impinging upon a self-made person and trying to tell them that they can't run their business the way that they want to. Now, that person who is doing that is breaking the law and also taking advantage of helpless people and a very broken system.
And also the story that he tells to effectively attempt to bribe Kyle Chandler's FBI agent results in the mom not living through the surgery that, it's like we helped this guy get an overnight deal so that he could pay for his mom's like heart surgery. And it was very sad she didn't survive. But anyway, what a fuck. It's funny. It's incredible, amazing, messed up scene.
But by the end of that scene, when Chandler and his colleague are leaving the boat and Belfort starts yelling at him about how you're going to be riding the subway home. Yeah. We do have that payoff moment near the end of the movie where we do cut to Kyle Chandler and he sees the headline about Belfort after he's been arrested and sentenced to prison time. And he has a quiet moment of reflection about what his life is and what he does.
Yeah.
And what the FBI represents and what government work is. And it's very modest, but most movies would not show that. And they would not show that there is like a nuance and a complexity to this issue, and that what Jordan Belfort is doing is the work of someone who's trying to get a leg up on other people so that he can have what he wants. And that the government thinks that there is a kind of nobility in the work that they do.
Yeah.
But it's not all roses. They're corrupt too, or they also have this kind of like bottomless existential dread of, am I wasting my life if I'm not succeeding?
You know what I had forgotten is when they do finally raid Stratton Oakmont, the needle drop is the Lemonheads, Mrs. Robinson, which I would also like to like.
How did that happen?
How did Marty and Robbie Robinson become like aware of the limit? Like
there's some funky ones in this movie.
What's this process? But it's just an absolutely like pitch perfect, a very funny, jarring needle drop. But even there, it's like, and everyone in their windbreakers, and we're just like, well, this is all fucked. No one is.
Yeah. And I think if you wanted,
it's plastics for everyone.
It's exactly right. I was going to say, I think if you want to draw it all the way out, you can be like, well, this is the copy of a moment of cultural revolution. And it's like, it sounds close to it, but it's not really it. And this is, Jordan Belfort is not Andrew Carnegie. You know what I mean? He is not like, he didn't invent anything. He just kind of took advantage of this moment in history. So there's so many clever little moments like that throughout the movie, and especially with the music, which I still think is so phenomenal. Can I just suggest one possible contender for the best Leo performance?
Sure.
Catch Me If You Can.
I was surprised that you skipped over it when you were reading all the things. Well, it is really good. And
I wanted to come back to it as to me, this is maybe the runner-up to Wolf of Wall Street.
Because it's very similar, but just a lot more daddy issue Christopher Walken stuff, which, pays off in the scenes with Tom Hanks, America's Dad. But it's good. But that's young Leo. I think that's old. That's of the generation of Titanic, and
it is. I feel like it's the springboard movie. I feel like it's the movie where he learns how to give a more mature performance. Mm-hmm. So it's at least important.
Yeah,
I really love that movie. It does have some of the trappings of explaining why someone is the way that they are that we're talking about that you don't necessarily have to do.
And sometimes you need to. But I think it's a very novel feat of this film that it doesn't.
And Spielberg is obviously prone to daddy issues movies, so it happens. One other thing I wrote down here, this movie essentially breaks every rule.
Mm-hmm.
So I mentioned the into-camera explanations and the voiceover.
Yeah.
Breaks the fourth wall and it explains everything to you. It's an unreliable narrator, which is not, that's a good thing often in films like this, but still, these characters are pretty one-dimensional.
Yeah.
Most of the people in his cohort, even Donnie Azoff, Jonah Hill, who's phenomenal in this movie, super funny and pitch perfect in a lot of ways. Not a lot of nuance to these guys.
Yeah.
They want something. They have they're hungry wolves.
I'm sorry, I'm just thinking about all the funny things Jonah Hill does in this movie. It's an incredible performance.
The teeth, the way that he's styled, his hair, the glasses, all of the costuming.
The running away from Bernthal in the strip mall. The cousin scene, at the bar. It's really good.
Steve Madden.
The casting across the board is really good.
Also, just for the 90s women in my life, of which there are no one listening to this podcast, Steve Madden being a crucial figure of this movie is just very important.
Yeah. Obviously, it is true to the story of Jordan Belfort, but it is a perfect stand-in.
It's perfect.
And I will say, as a 12-year-old or whatever, living on Long Island, going to the mall and trying to understand why every girl I knew needed to have Steve Madden shoes while looking at the shoes.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense.
Yeah. But we did.
And now it does make sense.
We did.
Does that make you feel any worse about the industry of fashion and style trends? That the people at the levers are these monsters?
Does David Ellison owning all of Hollywood make you feel any worse about your DVD collection?
Yeah, it does.
All right.
Well, it makes me feel worse about the future. I don't know about the past. I mean, he didn't do anything with the past.
Yeah. No. I mean, I have larger concerns with the fashion industry.
Okay. What are they?
Well, how we're treating workers and obviously sustainability.
Okay.
And all of that stuff. Where are all the Steve Madden shoes that I wore in the 90s? They are not decomposing somewhere.
Yeah, they're in a landfill.
They are definitely not made of natural materials.
How many pairs of Steve Madden shoes did you own?
Well, so I had the loafers, and I had them in the 4-inch height and the 2-inch height.
Okay.
And
did you tower over all these poor young boys when you were 13?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. What's the alternative? And it's not my fault that
wear flats.
Yeah. I had the 2-inch as well.
Okay.
But the chunky 4-inch loafer heel. If Jack, Google this so that you can understand the reference. All right, we got a thumbs up from Jack.
Don't Google it.
This was really, this was 17, magazine Delia's era. It was very important.
Oh, yeah. I remember.
But I probably did go through a couple of them because you wear them out.
Wear and tear. Yeah, sure.
And it's not exactly they're made for a lifetime, except for when it comes to landfills.
Well, Steve Madden, thanks you for your service, even though his pump and dump scheme led to him being deleted from the fashion industry for a stretch of time. I think, gosh, is this the right choice for Scorsese? I think it is.
What would you want Silence? I was never going to do Silence.
I know. I haven't gone back to Silence. I would like to see Silence again on a big screen. I saw Silence before this show started in a movie theater, regular paying crowd by myself on Christmas Eve. And like in the morning.
Yeah.
It was like the movie event of the year for me.
No, I think I saw it at the ArcLight by myself. I would have said it was like the week before Christmas, but now that I'm thinking about it, maybe it was like the week.
It might have been the week before.
Because you had seen it, and then our friend Gilbert Cruz had seen it, and I texted, and we're like rapturous, and I texted each of you being like, okay, boys.
It was December 23rd, 2016 is when it opened.
Okay.
Which
So
makes
it must have been
sense.
like that after Christmas vibe.
Yeah. I'm sure I saw it the day it came out. And, I really flipped over it, and I've watched it one time since then.
Okay.
But it is similarly a very big, long movie with a lot of big ideas in it. But silence gets some time in this Apple documentary, I think, because it's a very important movie to Scorsese. So, I never thought you would go for it. I do think this is a perfect meeting ground for us in a lot of ways. It's wonderful to celebrate Leo in this way. I think The Irishman would have been worthy of exploration.
I would have been open to it.
It definitely would have been worthy of exploration. I think that movie is much more divisive.
Yeah,
there are a lot of people who do not like it.
People are wrong.
Some people can be wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not their list. It's our list.
Are you saying you're never wrong?
When I am wrong, I say I was wrong, but it is pretty rare,
You've made yourself so lovable.
Thank you.
Recommended if you like.
Yeah.
Did you write these down?
I did, yeah.
This is funny, right? Because I like what you've written down here. Boiler Room, Margin Call, and Industry.
That was just all on one list. I don't know. If you like these movies about how all the finance bros are living the good life, but also maybe not, then this is the ultimate. This is, the mothership.
Yeah. I think also Wall Street, Oliver Stone's film, is also probably a part of this lineage of these kinds of movies and TV shows.
Gets a name check in Wolf of Wall Street.
He does. That movie feels very small compared to Wolf of Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
It is a big movie, but
also the second half of it is kind of like what's going on.
There's stuff in it that it's not my favorite. When we did our Stone episode, it's not one really high for me personally. But Boiler Room. I guess the next one too, The Big Short, is also. These are all part of a story of American finance.
I think we also didn't really talk about this movie. It came out in 2013, which was pretty soon after the 2008 crash, and definitely at the time felt like if not a response to, then like in conversation, like yet another piece of like, oh, this is what they're up to on Wall Street.
Yeah, Leo got Warner Brothers to acquire the rights to Belfort's memoir in 2007, and they started developing the movie in 2010 as a direct response to everything that was happening at that time. And so you can very clearly see the movie as this rejoinder to this terrible moment in American history.
But then also Margot Robbie in a bathtub and direct to camera speaking about financial things, and like simplifying them. It is all right there.
They're really twinned in a lot of ways. You could argue that I like The Big Short. And
I do as well.
The world turned on Adam McKay, for a variety of reasons, but I still think that those couple of first few like socio-political comedies that he made are really good.
Yeah.
But there is a lot that The Wolf of Wall Street accomplishes that obviates some of The Big Short as well. Like it kind of like accomplishes a lot of what it's trying to say. Mm-hmm. There is some more specificity in The Big Short, but I agree with you. It's a great shout. And then you've listed one battle after another, and we're 24 hours out from the movie event of the year.
I know. I'm very excited.
I am too.
You're a little nervous. You're feeling the pressure.
I want to do a good job on our episode.
I do as well.
This very rarely happens. The last time this happened was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Okay.
Where I was like, I've been waiting for this all my life.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for somebody whose work I care about this much, who I know has done something special. I remember being at the first screening. It was at the ArcLight of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I was so psyched to be invited to that screening. And as soon as it was over, I was like, forever movie. That's a forever movie.
Yeah.
That's like the best feeling in the world. There have been plenty of great films since then. Plenty of films I've given 5 stars to.
Yeah.
But when you've seen something that you know is special, if you have a platform like this, I want to do a good job. So we will do that job very soon. Thanks to Jack Sanders for his work on this episode. Number 10 is also a wonderful movie that I am very excited to revisit, and I have not seen in a long time.
I'm psyched. I can't wait.
Okay.
It's an Amanda movie. We'll put
it is an Amanda movie.
Yeah.
And that'll be, is it next week? It's next week, right?
I don't know, Jack.
October 1st.
Okay.
It's next week.
Okay.
We'll see you then.